Today's rally is also sponsored by Councilman Alarcon's office. He will be here to speak with us at around 3 o'clock. So if we can get a round of applause for Councilman Alarcon for taking up this important cause. So without further ado, we'll have Mary Beth come up and she can take it from here. Thank you, Mary Beth.
Thanks, Lauren. Well, I just want to say it's a great day to be here, and Sheila Mickelson just said to me, what a great day to celebrate. And it's a little bit of a funny thought to think about celebrating the 3rd anniversary of the Citizens United Supreme Court decision. But I thought, you know what, that's a good way to kick off this talk, because what we're celebrating is this growing democracy movement that has coalesced around this decision, where so many people are finally standing up and saying enough is enough. I just read a recent poll that said 90%, close to 90%, 89 point something percent of Americans feel that corporations have too much control over our democracy. So I think we all remember when that would be a conversation that maybe only a few people would sort of get. And I think the great thing about Citizens United, so what in a sense, or could be the great thing about Citizens United, is maybe this is the tipping point that's going to really wake us up. In fact, it is waking us up to realize that our government has been co-opted by corporate interests for the last 100 years, and it's gotten so much worse in the last 40 years, since the late 70s, and even worse since 2010 with this Supreme Court decision. And that finally we're saying enough is enough, and we're standing up and we're going to take back control of our government. And we're going to stand up and fight for a new level of democracy so that really we become even more of a nation that is controlled by the 99% by the people, and where we're able to enact policies that serve the best interests of the vast majority instead of the interests of the privileged few. So I think this is a great day, and thank you. And the other thing I wanted to say about this particular anniversary of Citizens United is it marks the beginning of a coalition between two great democracy movements. The one, as I said, that's come together around Citizens United, and also the renewed civil rights movement that has been forming around all of the efforts to suppress the vote. And as I'm sure that everybody here knows, there's been efforts made to make it more difficult for people to vote, for especially minority people, people of elderly, students, with these laws drafted by the American Legislative Exchange Council, and this whole sort of coordinated strategy to undermine our democracy. So this day on a national level marks the merging of these two movements into one great, strong democracy movement. And so there are rallies taking place all over the United States in 100 different cities around these two central issues coming together. So that's more progress. And also, to date, I think now multiple states, 125 Congress people, the President of the United States, just recently in the 2012 elections, 2 states through the ballot initiative have gone on record opposing the Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And so this movement that was once called a pipe dream is now really becoming mainstream. So I borrowed that phrase, but it's a good one. Because I remember when we started, actually, going back to this theme of the anniversary of Citizens United, on the first anniversary was the time when Ann Porter, I think I saw her sitting over there, she gave a wonderful workshop on the history of corporate personhood that was sponsored by Move to Amend and the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And that's where many of us, including myself, who really started and organized the grassroots effort here in Los Angeles, got our inspiration. And so I want to give a big shout out to Ann, a tireless fighter for justice, who, there she is over there with the scarf, who has been for years going around and teaching 1 person, 5 people, 10 people, 100 people, the story about how corporations usurped our human rights, starting with the 1886 Supreme Court decision in Southern Pacific Railroad versus, what was it, the SEC, or Santa Clara, versus the Southern Pacific Railroad. I'm getting all these cases mixed up. It has nothing to do with the FEC or the SEC, but it did have to do with Southern Pacific Railroad and a huge corporate interest trying to steal our constitutional rights and claim that they applied to corporations. So that day, 2 years ago, we started meeting, and I know that a lot of people, longtime activists, even when we were saying we were meeting around a constitutional amendment, they were like, oh, come on, that's never going to happen. A constitutional amendment, there's got to be I'm sorry, I'm imitating one person. There's got to be another way to do this. You know, in just a very short time, I mean, you know, last year the LA City Council went on record and calling for a constitutional amendment. Now it's going to be given, the voters of Los Angeles are going to have the opportunity to vote directly on it, which is such a more powerful opportunity for us to educate people and to get them to weigh in and wake up about this issue. But, you know, it's just spreading like wildfire all across the country. And in fact, our goal, and I don't know if this is possible, but we're formulating plans right now to actually introduce a campaign called Clean by 16, with the idea that maybe we can actually accomplish this by 2016. And I know this is incredibly ambitious, but, you know, what it would mean would be installing enough representatives in Congress and the state legislators who are pro getting money out of politics in the 2014 elections, so that we could actually, you know, flip the Congress, have the majority, introduce the amendment, and take the next 2 years to ratify it and actually, you know, get the money out so that by the next presidential election in 2016, our democracy will no longer be for sale. So that's the goal. We're going to try. We're going to actually sit down and try to figure out, you know, really how we could do that. And we think it's good to have like a goal, even if it turns out that it's clean by 18 or maybe even clean by 20. So I think it was Rocky Anderson that I was pitching this to, and he said, yeah, either clean by 20 or still dirty by 30. But anyway, so we've got slogans lined up if we have to keep pushing that deadline back. But we know that we're going to follow this fight to the very end, and we're not going to settle for any less than the democratic ideal that we were promised as Americans. And, you know, we are going to fight to make that ideal come true again. Well, I just, again, want to thank all the speakers. I think it's been a great lineup, and thank you, Lauren, and the team that put this day together. And I guess I just wanted to say that, you know, the second part of our coalition's name, it's Money Out, Voters In. And the Voters In part, I just wanted to talk, I wanted first of all to acknowledge that at the same time that we're here today, the memorial service for Aaron Swartz is going on in New York City. And I think that just, you know, I won't go into the story. I think everybody knows it about how the federal government or the state of Massachusetts really hounded him to his untimely death. Just when we take the time to reflect on something like the death of somebody, especially who was so idealistic and did so much good, brought so much good into this world, I think it really connects us with the fact that all of us who are out here fighting for this, we're all idealists. We all have something that's basically love in our hearts. It's a vision of a better world, a world where people take care of each other, where people don't have to mortgage their futures in order to get educated and to fulfill their potentials, a world where people don't have to die because they don't have the money to pay for medical treatment. The list goes on and on. But I think that I'm sure I'm not alone when I say that what really motivates me is a beautiful vision inside of another kind of a world. So I think we have to all remember that and keep that vision alive. And I know that we've made a lot of progress, but you know, I just see this whole movement is really going to be a sea change. And that if we keep at it, that we are really going to create a different kind of world. And even if we have to weather the, you know, climate change and the things we can't turn back, but we're going to have a stronger democracy and a more humane, loving, and compassionate world. And that's really what all of this is about. So I just wanted to leave everybody with that thought. And then on a logistical level, I also wanted to point out that, you know, the next step forward, there's the first thing is the Money Out, Voters In coalition in Los Angeles, which is a whole lot of groups working together to advance the cause and to organize, especially around the May ballot initiative. There's a sign-up sheet up here at this table, so please sign up for that. There's also Jacqueline West there, could hold your hand up. She's organizing with the American Anti-Corruption Act, which is a comprehensive piece of legislation. They're trying to collect 1 million signatures so that when it's introduced in the spring, there'll be 1 million Americans who are co-signers introducing the legislation. They've got 350 signatures, 1,000 signatures so far. So they're a third of the way. So there's Money Out, Voters In, American Anti-Corruption Act, the Disclose Act in the back. And then there's also the Yes We Can Democratic Club. Is there something I'm forgetting? 99 rise. Okay, I'm so sorry. So there's 99 rise. So go, let's all sign up if you haven't already to become one of those 10,000 people who are going to go take to the streets. When we have 10,000, then we're going to take to the streets and we're going to make a big statement. So there's a lot that you can do going forward, and I just want to thank everybody for being here today, and it really is an honor. So have a great evening.